Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are putting on our tuxedos, ordering our martinis, shaken, not stirred, and, well, immediately realizing we are completely underdressed for what we're actually talking about.
Underdressed and probably overconfident. Because if there's one thing we're going to learn today, it's that the Hollywood image of a spy, the glamorous, jet-setting gambler, is about as far from reality as you can get.
So it's not quite that.
Not at all. The reality is grittier, it's sadder, and honestly, it's a lot more library toilet than Casino Royale.
Library toilet. Okay, we are definitely going to get to that. But first, let's set the stage. We're looking at a fascinating and frankly kind of disturbing report titled Spies Among Us.
It's from the Swedish Defense Research Agency, the FOI, and it's a really comprehensive study.
It is. It analyzes 70 distinct cases of people convicted of espionage in Europe. This is all between 2008 and 2024.
And that's a really significant data set. We're looking at 70 convictions across 20 different countries. So our goal here is to just strip away the myth and look at the mechanics.
Right. Who are these people, really?
Yeah. Why do they betray their countries? And how has the whole game of espionage shifted from, the Cold War insider to what we might call the gig economy of spying?
The gig economy of spying. That is a terrifying phrase.
Right.
It implies this sort of volume and disposability that you just don't associate with state secrets.
Exactly.
But before we get too deep into the shadows, I do want to mention that while we're talking about leaked state secrets and international intrigue, your personal secrets are just as valuable.
Absolutely. In a world where data is basically the new currency, protecting your own digital footprint is, well, it's essential.
So a big thank you to our partners, www.breached.company and www.myprivacy.blog for supporting this deep dive.
Yeah.
If you want to know if your data's been exposed or you just want to learn how to lock down your digital life, check them out.
It's worth it. Now, back to the spies.
Let's do it. Okay, so geography first. We have 70 convictions. When I think of spy capitals, I think Vienna, maybe misty bridges in Berlin. But looking at this data, the map looks, well, lopsided.
It is incredibly lopsided. I mean, Berlin is still on the map. Germany had 8 cases, which is significant. But the absolute hotspot, Estonia.
Estonia, 19 cases.
Yeah.
That is nearly a third of the entire data set from one small Baltic nation.
Right. And you have to ask yourself, is, half of Estonia on the payroll? Or is something else going on?
I'm assuming it's the latter.
It's the geography of the threat, for sure. Estonia borders Russia, so they're on the front line. But 19 cases compared to, say, 0 listed for the UK in this time frame.
Yeah, that doesn't feel right.
Doesn't mean there are no spies in London, or Brussels for that matter.
Right. Brussels is practically the spy capital of the world, with NATO and the EU there.
Exactly. The high number in Estonia actually suggests they have a very aggressive counterintelligence strategy. They catch them and they convict them publicly. In a lot of Western European countries, espionage is often handled quietly.
You mean diplomatic expulsions?
Persona non grata, you just send them home rather than putting them on trial, which avoids public spectacle, but it also skews the data we see.
So Estonia is the part of the iceberg we can actually see.
Precisely. The authors of the report call it the dark figure. We are only analyzing the failures, the spies who got caught. The successful ones are still working.
That's a comforting thought. So let's talk about the puppet masters. Who's running these networks?
Well, the report calls Russia the omnivore. They are responsible for 47 out of the 70 cases.
Wow, that's dominant.
It is. We see China with 6 cases, Iran with 3, Turkey with 3, but Russia is the main player. And that term omnivore is really perfect because they aren't picky, they consume everything.
So it's not just the nuclear launch codes.
Far from it. Military intel, political gossip, infrastructure plans, student rosters. I mean, if it's information, the GRU, FSB, or SVR want it.
Okay, so we know who's doing the instigating. But who are the traitors? If they aren't James Bond, who are they?
Well, first off, you can shatter that femme fatale myth. 94% of the convicted spies in this data set are men.
Okay, so much for the glamorous seductress in the red dress.
Yeah, there are a few women, but it's overwhelmingly male. The average age is 48. So, middle-aged men. But the range is wild.
Oh, wild.
From a 21-year-old to an 82-year-old.
An 82-year-old spy? What on earth was he stealing? Bingo numbers.
You'd be surprised. Experience counts for something. Or maybe just invisibility. I mean, who suspends the grandfather?
That's a good point.
But here's where the data gets really interesting on motivation. The report highlights the continental divide in Europe.
A divide between East and West.
Exactly. If you look at Eastern Europe, like the Baltic states, the motives are often ideological. You have people with divided loyalties.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, maybe they're ethnic Russians living in Estonia, feeling some nostalgia for the Soviet era. They don't see it as betraying their country. They see it as helping the motherland. It's a heart and minds issue.
Whereas in the West,
In Western Europe, so Germany, Sweden, Italy, the motive shifts completely. It becomes transactional.
show me the money.
Pure greed. Or debt. Or just personal dissatisfaction. In the West, it's rarely about loving Russia. It's about wanting a better car or paying off a gambling debt.
That leads us perfectly into the different types of spies, because the report distinguishes between the traditional insider and this new scary category you called the disposable.
Right.
Let's start with the insiders. These are the guys who actually have the secrets, right?
Correct. The traditional insider is what we usually think of. Someone with clearance, someone inside the building. The report details the case of the Swedish brothers, it's like a movie script that ends badly.
This is the Kia case, right?
Yes. Payman Kia. He was a higher-ranking official. He worked for the Swedish Security Service and military intelligence. I mean, this guy was deep inside the apparatus.
He had the keys to the kingdom.
He did. And he brought his younger brother, Payam, into it. The older brother would steal the intel, highly sensitive stuff, and the younger brother acted as the courier and money man.
And this wasn't for ideology.
No, this was for cash, a lot of it. We're talking over 100,000 euros, but paid specifically in USD bills.
Cash in hand. Okay, this brings us back to that library toilet comment you made.
It does. Their tradecraft was shockingly old school. They used a dead drop in a public library.
Explain that for people who haven't read Le Carré.
A dead drop is a location where you leave items for someone else to pick up, so you never have to meet face to face. In their case, they were using the ceiling of a toilet.
In a public library.
Yeah, they'd hide envelopes of cash or flash drives up there in the tiles.
It feels so analog. You've got this high-tech digital world, and these guys are standing on a toilet seat stuffing cash into a ceiling.
It works until it doesn't. They were caught, and the damage they did was severe. But that's the high-value target. What's changing, and what the report really emphasizes, is the shift toward disposables.
The fast food espionage.
Exactly. Intelligence agencies, especially the Russian FSB, have realized that grooming a high-level officer like Kia takes years. It costs a fortune, it's high risk. So they've started recruiting people without special clearance.
People who don't have access to state secrets? So what good are they?
They provide quantity, they can observe, photograph, commit sabotage. The report details a heartbreaking and terrifying pattern with Estonian smugglers.
These aren't career spies.
No, these were young men, 19, 20, 21 years old, involved in petty crime smuggling cigarettes or people across the Russian border. They get caught by the FSB.
And instead of arresting them,
They give them a choice. Spy for us or go to a Russian jail.
that is hardly a choice. That's blackmail.
It's coercion, pure and simple. These young men became disposable assets. The FSB sends them back across the border with a task. Go count the trucks at this base. Or see if there are American soldiers in this town.
And if they get caught,
The FSB doesn't care. That's why they're disposable. They're cheap, they're deniable, and if they burn out, you just find another smuggler. It's an industrial approach.
that's incredibly cynical. It treats human beings like ammunition.
It does. And often these disposables don't even know who they're really working for. They're just cogs in a machine they can't see.
You know, hearing how easily people can be exploited, a smuggler in a bind, someone needing cash, it just highlights how fragile security is. Spies exploit small vulnerabilities in people. Hackers look for small cracks in your digital life.
It really is the same principle.
Yeah.
The FSB looks for a smuggler with a secret. A hacker looks for a user with a weak password, one little vulnerability, and you're exposed.
Which is why we're so glad to have www.breach.company and www.myprivacy.blog as partners. They help you plug those leaks before someone exploits them. Because unlike these spies, you probably aren't getting paid if your data gets stolen.
You're just losing money. Or your identity. It's worth checking out.
So we've talked about the who and the where. Let's dig deeper into the why. You mentioned the East-West divide, but the report uses a specific model called MCE.
MICE. Yeah, it's a classic acronym in the intelligence world. Money, ideology, coercion, ego.
Let's break those down because the stories are wild. Money seems to be the big one.
It's the most common factor. 58% of the spies in this data set received payment. But here's the thing. It's usually not buy a private island money.
It's pay the rent money.
Exactly. Take the case of the Italian naval captain, Walter Bio. He was caught selling classified NATO documents to the GRU in a parking lot.
A parking lot handoff. Classic.
You'd think a naval captain would be driven by ideology, maybe he hated NATO, but no. He was struggling financially because of the COVID pandemic. He had a mortgage, 4 kids, expenses he couldn't meet.
So it's just economic hardship. That's almost tragic in how banal it is.
It is. Then you have coercion, which we touched on, but it can get much darker. The report mentions an Estonian major, a high-ranking officer.
An insight.
Yes. He visited Russia, and while he was there, he was lured into an amorous encounter.
The classic honey trap.
Indeed. But then the trap snaps shut. He was accused of rape, a complete fabrication by the FSB, and told, work for us or you go to prison for rape in Russia.
That's terrifying. You're completely trapped.
He was blackmailed for years. But then you have ego. This one's fascinating and often the most dangerous because it's so emotional.
The angry employee.
The report details a French embassy worker in China. This guy was just a mess of resentment. He had an affair, which is a big no-no. He was forced to return to France in disgrace.
So his career hits a wall.
He felt his career was stalled. He felt undervalued. He thought his pension wasn't big enough. He had this deep sense of, I gave you my best years, and this is how you repay me.
Disappointment is a recruitment vector.
That's exactly it. If you feel the state owes you something, you might just decide to take it. He eventually even recruited a former colleague who was also bitter about a stalled career.
And finally, ideology.
This brings us back to that divided loyalty, the case of the Latvian anti-fascist. This wasn't about money. He was actively engaged with pro-Kremlin Telegram channels. He collected intel on NATO because he genuinely believed in the Russian narrative.
That's probably the hardest type of spy to catch, right? You can't just pay them off.
Correct. Their conviction comes from within. And speaking of Telegram, this leads us to the biggest shift in the report, the digital toolbox.
We've gone from dead drops in library toilets to digital recruitment.
The whole landscape has changed. In the old days, it was about long-term cultivation, face-to-face dinners, building trust over years.
It's a slow game.
But now, you have the Privet bot on Telegram.
Privet bot, as in hello bot.
Literally. It was used to recruit young Europeans for sabotage or arson. It gamified the process. You interact with the bot, it gives you a task, go burn this electrical box, you upload proof, and you get paid in crypto.
That is the Uberification of sabotage. It's so dangerous because it lowers the barrier to entry. You don't need to meet a handler in a dark alley.
You just need a smartphone. And it reaches people you wouldn't expect. There was a case of a 17-year-old British male.
17? A kid?
A kid. He'd been rejected by the British military, so he was vulnerable, angry. Iranian intelligence, the IRGC, found him on Facebook.
On Facebook.
They groomed him entirely online, never met his handlers, convinced him to try and gather information on security forces.
That is chilling. It really shows the target isn't just the guy with the briefcase of nuclear codes anymore. It's anyone.
And that brings us to what they are stealing. The appetite is omnivorous. It's names of students, it's CVs.
Why CVs?
To find future recruits. If you know who's studying engineering today, you can target them in 10 years when they have a clearance.
And floor plans. I saw that mention of a German electrician.
That case is very telling. A German electrician with access to the Bundestag, the German parliament. He wasn't stealing legislative secrets. He was stealing the floor plans and the electrical layouts.
That sounds like prep for sabotage.
Or for planting listening devices. If you know where the wires run, you know where to tap. It's technical, boring, and incredibly valuable.
And then you have the observer. This is a specific type in the report involving Greek retirees.
Yes. This shatters the 007 myth completely. These weren't experts. They were just older people living near naval bases. They were recruited to just take photos.
Just look at the pretty ships.
Exactly. Take a photo of that ship, send it to us. They're low risk, unassuming. Who suspects the nice old couple with a camera? But those photos help track fleet movements.
This report actually categorizes these spies into 10 different typologies. It's not just the spy.
No, it's nuanced. We've mentioned the insider and the disposable, but you also have the specialist, like the electrician. You have the multi-criminal spies who are also dealing drugs or smuggling.
It's a side hustle.
And crucially, you have the fact that spying is often a team sport.
Really. I always picture the lone wolf.
The data says 1 in 3 convicted spies worked with a partner. Often it's family.
The family that spies together goes to prison together.
Pretty much. We saw an Estonian couple where the husband was the spy gathering the intel, and the wife was the courier. It complicates everything.
And then you have full-blown spy rings.
There was a massive case in North Macedonia. It involved police generals, ministry officials, a whole network active for years. It shows that counterintelligence agencies are looking for needles that are tied together.
So what does this all mean for us? We've gone from the Cold War deep cover agent to this messy digital gig economy espionage.
It means the threat surface is much broader. It's not just about protecting the Ministry of Defense. It's about protecting universities, infrastructure, private companies. And it means ordinary people are getting caught in the crossfire.
The 17-year-old on Facebook, the smuggler on the border.
Exactly. They're often victims as much as they are perpetrators. They get caught in bad situations and are exploited by ruthless state actors.
And I want to circle back to that tip of the iceberg warning. We mentioned some countries in this data set, like the UK, had 0 convictions listed.
Right, and that is a critical point to end on. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It could mean they're handling it diplomatically, or more worryingly, they just aren't catching them. The high numbers in Estonia might actually be a sign of a healthy immune system.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one of the most provocative ideas from this deep dive: the concept of innocuous information.
Yes, this is what people often misunderstand. They think, I don't know any state secrets, so I'm not a target.
Why would Russia want a picture of my office building? Or why do they want this student's CV?
Because in the world of big data and hybrid warfare, everything is a puzzle piece. A photo of a fence might reveal a security gap. A student's CV might reveal a financial vulnerability they can exploit in 10 years.
That's the long game.
It is. No information is truly useless to an omnivore intelligence agency.
Well, on that slightly paranoid note, I think we've certainly debunked the James Bond myth today. It's less martinis and tuxedos and more library toilets, telegram bots, and tragic mistakes.
And a lot of human frailty.
Absolutely. Thank you for walking us through this. And a final reminder to our listeners. In this age of digital espionage, make sure you're protecting your data. Visit www.breach.company to see if your info is out there, and check out www.myprivacy.blog for tips on how to stay secure.
It's the best defense you have.
That's it for this deep dive. Keep your eyes open, watch out for the bots, and we'll see you next time.